Most guys swear they're going to start fresh tomorrow after relapsing on nofap. And then what happens? They're right back to zero. The truth is, most men will never get past day one. And if you don't fix this, you'll be stuck there too forever. Now, I've gone through this same cycle myself, and after struggling with this for years, I've gone over 470 plus days cumulatively on nofap and even cured my corn-induced ED, and now I help men do the same without all of the trial and error and years wasted. Now, number one, self-accountability. You have to understand that you're responsible, right, 100% for the place that you're in, right? So a lot of times people want to blame all of these external factors, right? They want to blame the phone, they want to blame their partner, they want to blame their they want to blame all of these different things, right, that are out of their control. When the truth is, right, wherever you are, right, the place that you're sitting, right, the partner that you have, the experience that you have, all of these things, right, are because of you, right? All of the actions in the place that you are today are a result of those actions and decisions that you've made, right? It's not the algorithm, it's not bad luck, it's literally your responsibility, right? So if someone doesn't admit that, what happens is you stay stuck in the same place for even longer, right? Because you take the control out of what you're doing, right? Because you give up responsibility and even the ability to change anything to someone else, and that keeps you stuck over and over again, right? So what happens is excuses really kill progress. But on the flip side, when you have accountability, that allows you to at least change the situation that you're in, then instead of staying stuck in the same spot over and over again. Now, number two, diet is destiny. And this is what a lot of people are not going to tell you, right? The food you eat affects how you think, your brain chemistry, the choices that you make, right? How you feel. And here's an easy example if you don't believe me, right? So what I want you to do is go ahead and eat a ton of junk food and then try to do work right after. And what happens? It's harder to do the work. It's literally harder to put in the work to stay focused, to actually achieve whatever outcome you wanted for that working session, right? Maybe it's to study for a test, right? Whatever it is, it's going to be harder for you to focus. I guarantee it, right? And then, for example, try another week, maybe let some time go by, try to eat healthy, and then do some more work again. And I want you to really observe the differences between those two sessions. I guarantee you'll notice a difference. And this really shows you at the simplest form, without wasting a ton of time, that yes, what you eat impacts the decisions that you make. And really a recurring theme of people who stay stuck versus people who are actually able to change their situation is garbage in, garbage out. So the more garbage you put in, right, you're eating sugar, processed foods, right, all of these things, I guarantee you're going to have garbage out, right? You're not going to think as clearly. You're probably not going to sleep as well. You're not going to make as good decisions, right? You're probably going to have even brain fog. So all of these things are almost a cause and effect relationship, right? But if you make good decisions, if you eat healthy, right, you don't go for all the processed things, I guarantee you that you'll see a difference, right, in some of the choices that you make, and even being able to not relapse all of the time, right? So start with your foundation, right? It's less about all of these external factors, all of these crazy things out there. It's literally about who you are and your inputs, right? Your control of yourself, and these small things that a lot of people tend to overlook, and is the real reason why they're stuck in the same place. So I guarantee you, if you clean up your diet, your urges will be easier to handle. Now, if you're someone who's struggling with this and wants to learn from someone who's, gone the test of time, 470 plus days, cured the ED, all right, all of these things, and you want a step-by-step instruction, you don't want to go through the trial and error, you don't want to be embarrassed by a partner, all of these different things, and you actually want something that works, click the link in the description so you can finally make a step in the right direction and actually make some change in your life. Now, number 3, inconsistent systems. Right, a system only works if you keep it in place. And here's the problem I see with a lot of things that people do. If your system is disciplined, what happens? How can that stay in place if you know it's a finite resource, right? So you have to stop relying on things that are finite, but put systems in place that literally won't change, right? So an example, right? If you configure, for example, your environment, let's say your phone, so that you only see certain things, there's no discipline that's necessary, right? Because you're putting in something that literally, especially if you can't change it, right? What happens is you don't have to use all of these external factors, right? It becomes your new normal. And that's really how you want to look at things, right? You want to change your new normal. And when your new normal becomes the type of environment that's conducive to your success, then you'll start seeing change, right? And what happens is if you rely on something that is not definite, right, that you can backtrack on, then your results will follow. So for example, if someone buys junk food, but they just tell themselves, I'm just going to leave it in the house, but I'm not going to eat it, right? I'm going to listen to this guy that I'm watching and I'm going to try it, right? But what happens is when you don't have the junk food in the house, you don't even buy it. What is that? You don't have a choice to go back to it, right? Versus when you do buy it and you leave it in the house, you know eventually that willpower is going to break and you're going to go buy it. So you want to make sure that the decisions that you make, that you can't just reverse the decision and go back to whatever you're trying to do, right? And then, of course, you end up back in day one, if we're being honest, right? So that's super important. And it's not about, right? It's not about finding the perfect system, but it's about the one that you can stick to and actually is according to, your triggers and what really gets you, right? But most people never actually take this opportunity to look at the systems that they're using and see if it's actually working for them. Now, number 4, managing your inputs, right? And this is even outside of food. Now, technically, yes, food is an input, but it was so important I had to mention it separately. Now, you have social media, TV, music, even ads, right? All of those things they're trying to capitalize off of you. It's that simple, right? They want to capitalize off of you, make money from you. And man, if you realize this, a lot of times the reason you keep going back to day one is not even because of you. It's because of the influences, right? And these other inputs that you have that you're not actually paying attention to, right? So since society in general has become way more, there's a lot of, things that are arousing right out there, right? A lot of different things that the current is kind of shifted a bit to where in the past, things were a little bit more modest, but now you can see anything out there, right? So the new normal, right, of stimuli is much higher. And what happens with this is a lot of times you're getting exposed to these things. You don't even think about it. And then all of a sudden you start getting these urges and you're like, where are these even coming from, right? But the thing is, it was because you were casually scrolling, for example, on Instagram, you saw something and then boom, you're not even thinking about it later on. But that's where a lot of these things actually start from, right? So it's literally about controlling your inputs. And even if you don't get a trigger immediately, a lot of times it pushes you in a certain direction. And once that buildup starts to happen and then you get to the point of no return to where you're about to go back to day one, you have to get in front of that, right? So you have to clean up what you consume as well. And I guarantee that'll cut things in half, be much more easier to manage. Number 5, you refuse to learn from your patterns. So we've talked about this time and time again. You got to make observations, right? So if you don't make observations in a game plan, you're going to stay in the same place, right? It's like a team, and if they don't study the team that they're playing against, right? If they know it's a basketball team, right? And what does the basketball team do? They like to shoot threes. And if you don't plan accordingly for that, you're literally never going to beat the team, right? So, okay, if you know they like to shoot threes, right? Then you're gonna guard the 3-point line. You're going to want them to drive because maybe they're not the best at driving. And it's literally no different, right? You have to come up with a game plan to win, right? To increase your odds of success. And that's literally the same way. So when you start to pay attention and actually look at those patterns and look at, okay, what's someone good at, right? What's someone bad at? What's actually causing this, right? What are the holes in the armor? Then you actually can make some change. But if you don't do that, you literally stay stuck in the same place, right? And it's obvious then why people don't actually make any change, because they're not looking at their patterns, and you refuse to just study this. All you have to do is sit down maybe 5 minutes and just think about how did you get to this point, right? And let's backtrack. Let's look at, okay, what are some things that maybe could be part of this equation? And literally you write out the equation for yourself. And I guarantee you, if you do that, you can actually literally see it. You can see the path. And once you can see the path, you can make decisions accordingly to change a game plan, right? But if you don't actually make the observations and start writing it down, you can't move forward. It's that simple. Number 6, you let emotions run the show. So when you don't pay attention to the patterns, then you start to have these emotions that are actually caused by other things, right? But, you have stress, you have boredom, you have loneliness, right? And you let these things almost be used as an escape, right? You let these things fuel you, right, to getting back to day one, right? And if you let these things control you, you'll never be able to actually make some difference, right? It's okay to have feelings, right? That's the thing, right? We're human, so it's okay to have those, but you've made a connection in your brain where you take these feelings and then you don't want to deal with them, so you plug in something else, and it's a temporary fix. And what happens if you really look at those things and actually address what those emotions are, then the emotion won't be a problem, right? But for example, if you're stressed, right, a lot of times what's the answer to stress? It's probably take action, right? You're probably stressed because you're not taking action on things you need to do, and then you just sit in it so you don't take action, and then you try to plug it in, right, to relapse, right? You go back to the corn, right? And then boom, you're still stuck in the same place. You're still stressed, and you made even less progress, and now you got no energy, right? So you got to look at it in a certain way as well, where emotions can actually be used as fuel to push you in the right direction. And it's about reading them correctly instead of, okay, you let them dictate your actions, and then boom, right? You're back in the same place that you don't want to be, right? So you got to learn to sit with them and replace that with action. So boom, if I'm lonely, man, maybe I need to join a club. Maybe I need to be more social, right? Maybe I need to call up a friend, see how he's doing, whatever it is, right? But you got to be observant. Number 7, you think short term and not long term. And this can all be summed up as delayed gratification, right? So delayed gratification means that you're basically able to delay, right, that reward, and you say, okay, I can continuously work for a long period of time and receive the actual reward that I want, right? I can almost put in the work and basically put the food in the microwave to really get it cooked, instead of put it in the oven and actually let it, really get a good gourmet meal, instead of just going and getting a microwave, TV dinner, putting that in the microwave and eating that, right? There's a difference. You can tell that there's a difference, right? So it's really that you don't want to obsess, right, over the streaks, but obviously look at the long term, right? In one relapse, when you're looking at a short period of time, it feels like the end of the world, right? You go back to zero, everything is lost. But if you're actually observing, looking at your patterns, and you can shift your focus to the long term, you can delay gratification, understand that, boom, if I'm lonely, man, this really isn't the fix, right? And if you can step back, be logical about it, right, and shift that focus, you can make so many changes, right? You can improve this, and you don't have to worry just about perfection, right? But you understand that one relapse isn't the end of the world, and that I'm playing the long-term game. And if you can delay gratification, man, you can win and become the type of man that you want to become. Now, if you enjoy these types of videos, man, and want to learn more about this topic, you really want to get in control of your decisions and your day-to-day actions, click this video on the screen now.